Hello, everyone. Welcome
Hello.
back to Code with Italians. Today we have with us a new guest. James is, yeah, could have used Christmas tunes. Yeah, Hugo, sorry, next time. We have with us James, and we're going to be talking about AOSP, how it works, how you build it, how you customize it, and all the things. If you do have questions for him, don't forget to put them in the Slido. And just on cue, Ivan.
Yeah. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
I know, no pressure, no pressure.
Oh, I have like 2 million windows here. Come on, give me a break.
Well, why don't you do the even thing, Ivan, and then we can get started.
Yes. So the event thing. So welcome everybody to our last episode of the year. Thank you for your support. It was a great week. We were surprised by the Android team at Google that they involved us. Well, I mean, they recognized us as part of the community and our effort. It was very nice. It was very nice. I'm gonna put the link in the description for those of you that haven't seen the video and our 1 second of like fame, but it was lovely. So back to what we do here. We are asking question on Slido. We have, I'm just gonna throw links at the chat. We have a Telegram group for you to join us when we are not live. We have a store, like a merch store, where you can buy the t-shirt that I'm wearing and other t-shirts and also hoodies. Check out the whole catalog. And we also have subscriptions if you want to support the project on a monthly basis. And if you pick the bruschetta tier, you will also have one of the perks is joining our Discord server, where you can chat after basically every episode. We have the guest coming over in a very private Google Meet chat, where Sebastiano is creating the clickbait thumbnail for YouTube while we mess around with Mark Ellison, that is always there, and with the guest that we had on the show. So thank you for the support. Keep an eye on the chat, because today we are giving away a metal pin and keychain. So it's the usual giveaway. At some point we will give you a word in the chat, and the bot that we are building is gonna keep track of who actually typed the word correctly, and eventually we will pick a winner. And that's it. So we can start with this unusual episode, and I can't wait.
Yeah. I'm super excited as well. I have worked a bit on AOSP in the past, but it was like forever ago. And that was like very different as I understand from what it is today. So, James, first of all, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm James. I'm from Malta. You can call me Pixelboot on other social medias. That's what my alias is. But yeah, I'm a custom ROM developer. I've been messing around with AOSP since I was very young, like 12, because I clearly had nothing to do apparently. But yeah, that nothing to do turned into something big for me. And yeah, I think of Android as something very fruitful now. And yeah, firmware engineering is another term used I like to bring up often for those who don't understand what AOSP is. It's very cool. And yeah, you can do it on any device. Your scale of Android on platforms can be endless. So yeah, that's what my perception of AOSP is and always was.
So I guess the first question is, what is AOSP?
So
Starts from the basic.
Start from the basic. So I like turning back to Google when they founded AOSP. So obviously AOSP stands for Android Open Source Project. But there is no fine structural limit on what to say AOSP is. You can use it for many things. It's very versatile, but in a way. Base AOSP is code coming directly from Google, raw code, to build Android, to do whatever the hell you want with it, on latest versions and whatnot. So be it device build, like bring up for your device trees and newer code bases, you can support that. You can modify Android to make it to your certain theme, add your apps, add your services if you're an OEM on a larger scale. And yeah, I think it's also very popular with app developers who just want to get a feel for Android when they're bringing up their app, especially when it's base AOSP. There's very less services in the background, so you can easily test and debug to your liking, especially with newer stuff being introduced later.
So AOSP is the stuff in Android that you can literally download the code for, build, and run somewhere, right? Without having to get, well, probably without having to get any binary blobs or stuff that you don't know what is in there, right?
Yes. So yeah, literally AOSP is the code base for which it's a generic field. Binary blobs could be introduced later on if you're doing device bring up. So you're specifying there, you're getting a big thing, you're adding the binary files, and you're building for a certain target.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay, so where do we start with that? Like, where do we find the code? How do we get it? How do we play with it? Let's not even get to the building part.
Okay, yeah, so that's a good it's a good checklist to go with. So obviously, if you want AOSP, it's on Google's sort of website. It's android.googlesource.com. Don't be afraid. If you go on that website, you'll find an index of just repositories. Don't be afraid. It's normal. It might seem like a lot of stuff, and you might be like, oh my God, why is there platforms, where are the device trees, where are there framework repositories? What is this supposed to mean? But using the repo tool, you can download that source code by repo init and repo sync. So then you can adjust your threads. So -J will help you utilize your cores to the full. Just don't use too much if you're on a server, because then you're just very greedy. So yeah, be respectful for the rest. And hopefully after an hour of download, which is, I think on average, what you need, since the default AOSP has a lot of repositories in the manifest, it will be done, and you can start tinkering straight away in your Android environment.
Got it. As you mentioned on the AOSP repo website, there's a million different modules, let's say, that how does it work? How do they come together into the final image? How does it also, I guess, how does the repo tool work?
Yeah, the repo tool basically depends on the manifest. So when you repo init initially, it'll dump a bunch of XML files into your .repo directory. And basically what this manifest is doing is, hey, you have to fetch this repository and download it at this branch, at this tag, so that everything can be sort of on the same version. So if it's Android 13, you're downloading Android 13 repositories and whatnot. And then when you sync it, it starts going through it one by one, and it downloads it as it goes. But for my case, for example, or many others, when you repo sync and the final stage of repo syncing, you don't necessarily consider one repository at a time. You could if you're doing a large-scale project, for example, and you want to modify Android to your own liking. But you consider Android as an environment. So the framework depends on many things. So like it's dependent. The apps link to the framework repository. The device tree links to the framework repository. The links to the hardware repositories to compile properly, for example, on a kernel base. Vendor blobs are being transferred here and there. So there's many repositories which depend on each other, and that's the important part of AOSP and what makes Android so open and versatile nowadays. So
Got it. I was trying to pull up the Slido, but I am frankly terrible with this. So even if there's while I pull that up, if there's any question that are relevant to what we are talking about, please don't hesitate to ask them.
I mean, so I'm a bit rusty on the topic, but I'm very curious to understand, because a few years ago with Stefano Viola, a dear friend of mine, we wrote a book about this. And it was something that I'm not sure that it aged well, because how fast the community moves. And I'm wondering, nowadays, do you still have things like, the XDA forum, or you have like how it was called, like the kitchen, something
Android
like
Kitchen.
Something that, there was a bunch of scripts that you were running. They were like very text UI, text-based UI, and then you had menu, and you pulled this and you pulled that, and that was basically the core of the tooling that we were using at the time. And then we were doing, the manual part. You change this, you change that, and you hack around things. I wonder, after, I don't want to say 10 years, but a good 8 years, how is the situation? Let's say I got the repo and I got source code, and now what?
Now what? Yes.
Where do I go now?
Good question. So with community, I still see communities up on XDA. XDA is still alive. I'm not saying it's not alive, but it's less prominent than back in the day. XDA used to be the only way you could get into Android custom ROMs or AOSP as a whole. It's become more Telegram dependent. So, for example, there's group chats for each device. It's generally good because you get to speak to developers directly. You speak to other community members who maybe help you when you're stuck immediately, instead of sending a post and then waiting for a reply. And yeah, you can send images, and you can direct logs directly to developers. So if there's an issue, I don't know, in Bluetooth, for example, that can be debugged quite easily. But with the kitchen tool, I'm just going to go through your message one by one, like your question one by one. The kitchen tool could still be used today, technically. I think it's still compatible with many things and niche use cases. I haven't used it much in the day. I do remember it was used for a ROM I made, which was packaging the whole backup file, for example. That's something it did really well, and signed it, and verified that it could be flashed on TWRP, for example. So yeah, I think it's still relevant, but I think we're going into a more GUI area where, if you want to have a menu for which you can flash images, or GSIs, which I can mention now, which are generic system images, which could be flashed on many devices. There's more nicer menus that have buttons and aren't in the terminal. But yeah, I think there could be script files which could replicate the same Android kitchen functions, for sure. With regards to what
would we use? What would we use at the moment? I mean, there is okay, let's say I want to join one of these Telegram groups. Where do I go? Do I search AOSP Telegram group on Google search? Where do we? I want to drop some link in the chat. Maybe people are and curious, and they want to join the community.
So, I mean, for my case scenario where I build Android for different devices unofficially as custom ROMs, what I usually do is I look for my device. So in this case, if I have a Pixel 3a, I look up Pixel 3a, XDA, maybe there's a custom ROM. And in the XDA thread, there's a Telegram link for further support, where stuff is more active usually. And yeah, it's just XDA is seen as a secondary means to keep your audience updated. But yeah, more generally, I think that would become too chaotic for Telegram use case. Imagine have one AOSP group chat with, I don't know, 20,000 members with chats going every second or whatnot. So I haven't seen one yet. I kind of don't want to see the spam. But yeah, it's more device or per custom ROM. So if there's a ROM, say one I work on, Pixel Experience, there is an official chat for which many people can direct their message to a certain device, for example, or a certain feature set that they want to be implemented in the ROM itself.
Okay, so the community moved to a more real time kind of communication and interaction.
Yep.
Okay, so now I have like a few gigabyte less on my laptop. I have a Telegram group or a few Telegram groups. Now what?
First thing you need to see when you do AOSP, right? For me, it was a no-brainer because when I was young, I had this tablet lying around and it was running Android 4.2 Jelly Bean. And I was like, wow, KitKat is the new thing, and my tablet cannot support this. Back in the day when like KitKat was a big thing or whatnot. And I was quite underwhelmed because it never got a major software update. It was a Samsung tablet, by the way. For any particular reason, anyone still has it around. Yeah, I was underwhelmed and I was like, is there anything I can do about this? And as a 12-year-old James would do, he went on the internet and he started looking for resources and saying, hey, is there a way to unofficially update your device? So my AOSP journey was direct to device firmware. So I didn't really have the trouble of saying, what am I going to get started with? Am I going to build my own application? Will I start with a raw application being compiled in AOSP? Do I need to compile it using like an AOSP utility? No, it wasn't that. It was device. I have a device tree. I have a custom ROM. In that day, it was CyanogenMod. And I was like, all right, I need to make this work. I need to have a flashable OTA file, which I can sideload onto my device. So yeah, I mean, different use cases, different audiences, many different variables to what you want to do with AOSP. And yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's Android, it's open, it's free, and you can do whatever the hell you want with it, productive or not.
I have a memory of when, back in the old days when there was, I think it was the HTC HD2, which was a phone that was born with Windows Phone. And then they started porting Android to it because it was essentially identical to the HTC Desire inside. And I seem to remember that they kept porting increasingly unlikely versions of Android to that device, and it was super cool. I had no idea how they were doing it back then, and I still kind of don't. But it was really cool to see, like, oh yeah, these people on XDA have found a way to run this version of Android on a 5-year-old device or something like that. That has never supported Android to begin with. That was very cool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I never had quite the experience of, oh my God, from Windows Phone to Android.
Yeah, right?
I think that was a lucky thing to come across because not many devices have the same processor on a different platform, because it's either Android or not Android. Then what is it? But yeah, there's alone itself, it's special to see a 5-6-year-old device running Android when it's not supposed to be. Like my Nexus 6P, which I used to spend so much time porting Android 9 after it lost support in Android 8, and further on Android 10 and 11. But yeah, it's a kind of sad process as well when it doesn't work. So when you need to introduce patches or there's bug fix, like bugs which are huge, the ones which stop you from booting into the operating system, kernel spam, all the consequences which come with that. So yeah, it's frustrating at sometimes, but it's very rewarding to say alone, and matures as a person.
I have so many fond memories when we were doing this, because the way I started, so I started in a different way compared to what your journey was. You had a device you wanted to update Android. We started with a shitty device and we wanted to make it better. So we were broke, okay? So this is the let's start from, there was no money. So we jumped on the thing, and that's how it works. I mean, constraints create creativity, sparks creativity,
Yes.
right? So there was no money. So we were able to come up with, I remember it was a Vodafone branded tiny Huawei phone. It was 99 euros. Okay, no, bear with me. It was 99 euros. So it was like below the 100 euros threshold, and it was like huge.
Yep.
And it was like 2.5 inches display. It was super cute. I mean, if you think about that now, it would be like a phone, or like a watch, right? It's the size of an Apple Watch kind. Yeah, and the thing was okay, but it was, it was tiny, it was slow, and we wanted to tinker with it. So our idea was like, okay, we start replacing pieces of the original ROM.
Right.
So we started, because we had with our friends, we were I'm not doing this bit in Spanish, sorry. So
Mike.
the idea was, we had experience with Linux. So, Android was kind of the same, not the same, but the bits that we were familiar with were like the kernel, the bootloading part. So we knew that. We didn't know anything about the apps, the UI. Screw that. So the bit where the kernel, I knew the kernel, right? Because I had Linux experience. So we were like, okay, let's start messing around with the Linux kernel that runs on this thing. And I remember one of the things that we were doing was changing the power management governor. We were messing with that CPU like big time. So we were like scaling the CPU like to like 0 and overclocking it like madmen's. And then we were doing things like, okay, the phone doesn't turn on anymore when you call it, because it was so low CPU. It was like, okay, it's saving a lot of battery, but it's unusable, or it's burning through the battery because now it's super fun. Look at how fluid is this thing. And then your battery life was like half. But then you start playing with this kind of stuff, and you say. And then the community jumped on us because the phone was cheap, and they sold a gazillion of them, and everybody were actually looking at our ROM to have better power management, or menus. I remember I started playing with the UI, and that led me to actually then being an Android developer, because we needed menus, because we were doing stuff on the system, but then you needed to surface the toggle to turn things on and off. You need a number, so I'm giving you like a text field, and then you basically are writing a number to a file, and then the Linux part is reading to a file, and I'm like, man, that was so bad. I mean. It was but it was working, right? It was working, and people were happy that that they could, give another life to a cheap phone. And so I have incredible memories for that time. And again, as you said, those are I had a use case, you had a use case, and then you start your journey from what you need. So you have that's what we are, right? I have a problem, I need to fix it. I don't care. Is it the right step to do? I don't care if it's the right step to do. I have a problem, it's annoying me, I need to fix this shit. And then you realize that a lot of other people have the same problem, and now they are happy because there is a solution that some nerd somewhere that was just had the time and the energy and the curiosity to do. So I love it.
Yep. So 12-year-old James, in retrospect, had the same situation as you. So as a kid, I didn't particularly have money to spend on phones. You know, it's a necessity. Your parents give you this much money, you have to stick with this phone, and that's what it is. So from a Tab 3, which was my first frustration with Android since I didn't get any upgrades, I went to a J3 2016, which was a 150 euro phone. So it really built me. Like I'm a 12-year-old kid. There's no programming in my school. I'm in secondary school. I'm busy learning Spanish. I'm learning Maltese. I'm learning mathematics. You know, there's no computing or whatever the hell. So I was in my summer house, bored. You know, I'm like, this is ridiculous. You know, I'm running Android 5 and there's no updates. Android 7 is out in the meantime. So this is quite disappointing. And I got my computer with a Core 2 Duo, I think. Yep, back in the day. I couldn't do much, but I tried to burn that CPU to try to do something. I dropped the internet off my summer house trying to repo sync the whole repository of AOSP because I didn't know what I was doing. I just had Ubuntu on a PC. It's the first time seeing Linux. But it made me grow up really quick. I never programmed. This was my first time. I saw it as a challenge. Something I'm going to achieve, something I can replicate from the community itself. And at the end of the day, I'm here, I'm building ROMs, I understand how Android works on a firmware level scale. Back in the day, I managed to get that piece of junk mobile running on Android 7 with CyanogenMod or Lineage later on. And I'm happy that my first programming and logic, computer logic, whatever the hell you want to say, is from Android, because it's a very good start and it's really intuitive and fun. So anyone can get into it.
It's everywhere, my friend. It's everywhere. Now it's everywhere.
Yep.
Cars, Sebastiano. Cars. Let's
Cars.
do some
Cars.
automotive.
Yeah.
So, have you played with Automotive on tablet?
So I have a good history with Automotive. So I gave a talk in July about AOSP in general, not knowing anything about Android Automotive. So I was at DroidCon Berlin. I was invited as a speaker by big surprise because it was my first time. I never was a public speaker, and I was like, why the hell not? Let's put an abstract description.
That's the right approach.
Yep. Not knowing I'll get accepted.
You never know.
I was like, I'm accepted. What am I going to do? I started doing my presentation. I'm like, okay, I need to put this, I need to understand this, and whatever. The talk went well. I enjoyed the hell out of DroidCon. I didn't know there were so many people who love the same thing. So yeah, I had the experience of meeting companies, automotive companies, who integrated Android into their use case on a larger scale, and I've got the opportunity to even work with them in an internship this summer in Munich, which was awesome.
Nice.
And yes, thank you. It's certainly a big field. It's the next step for cars, and as Android developers, it's a very big opportunity to step on. I've played with Lineage, which have a version of Android Automotive OS on a Tab S5.
Yeah, that's the one that Snap contributed, right? Yeah.
I do follow Snap, and I do actually like the approach that open source cars, Automotive OS. The trend is good. The fact is that we're using open libraries and we're doing it on a global scale, because to be honest, if there's a closed source Automotive OS, then the internet is losing, you know. For fast adaptation, if I'm able to experiment as an unemployed student in Malta, then you have succeeded, you know. I can be your future developer without even being trained. I can tinker with a tablet I have. I can emulate a car on a phone. I can see how Google Automotive Services, known as GAS, works as a whole. I read the logs, I see where they're not working and how they can be developed further. So yeah, no, I like the Android Automotive OS industry, and I would love to work with it in the future for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of Snap, I know that they recently launched a OS that is built on top of Android open source Automotive, Android Automotive OS. I still mess the the acronyms
It's a
up,
twister.
but it's really cool. And I know some of the guys that are some of the people that are working on it. And I'm really excited to see what they bring up, because it's a lot of very talented people. And also, I think it's the first time that we get someone that, that works in the industry and kind of gives a shit, if you pass the term, working on the automotive infotainment, as opposed to, the infotainment you normally get on cars that is like you want to punch it in the face. If it had a face, you would punch it.
I would. So yeah, there is a lot. I've seen it in a particular way where Android is not only developing for entertainment reasons, because in a car, an infotainment system is supposed to be entertaining and it's supposed to adapt to a car. So a CAN bus in a car has all the sensors, has all the information. You have the speed, you have the air conditioning control, you have distractions on this road is particularly important because let's say a car company is bringing up Android. There needs to be apps which are compatible, but also at the same time, say there is YouTube on a car. You're not going to allow the user to watch YouTube while he's driving. That's a driving hazard. So there is a lot. It's a good bring up for the new environment, but it also comes about with a lot of law and variables which you need to consider and makes it more complex.
Yeah, and a lot of regulations that you don't really need to deal with when you're working on phone apps. But as far as I remember, we did have an episode with folks from Snap a year and a half back. I put the link in the chat, by the way. And one thing I remember, they were mentioning that applications on Android Auto and on Android Automotive OS, they have like a fixed layout. Like you cannot roll your own layout. You have to use the pre-approved ones that are conforming to all the regulations for driver distraction and so on.
Yep, and obviously adapting to different screens. If there is a dashboard screen which is behaving differently from another car company, there needs to be an API or a flag which decides how it's going to structure the program to look good and interact well on a larger scale UI. I did experiment a lot with how Automotive OS handles tablet applications, for example. I've got it to work on a scale, but obviously Google, I think, is the one in control on, for example, Google Maps via the gas services on how they want to be brought up. There is a different Google Play Store. I've seen how that looks. There's mock-ups online. I've also been able to sideload it on a Tab S5e. So that's already a step forward. Now all there needs to do is just like translate the rest of the apps needed into an ecosystem for which it could work very intuitively for the user.
Is there, I know we're going on a tangent towards automotive, but just before we wrap that up, is there an emulator for Automotive OS that one can use to get a feel, or do you need to use the Lineage version on the Tab E5 or 5e? I never remember.
There are emulators for sure. I think they're not available to the public. You could use Android Studio. Maybe there's a GSI image for an automotive pre-built. Or you could also translate the Lineage one and build a GSI image from it, so then you can emulate it. But particularly, I've used the S5e because it's just a bit easier to sideload and interact with.
And I guess now this kind of gets me a nice segue back into the main topic of the episode today. You mentioned GSI. Maybe it's a good thing to explain what that is, what that means, and what's the value that it brings.
So GSIs, obviously, they're not widespread as we want them to be right now, because they were introduced with Android 8 Oreo, where vendors and newer devices brought up with Android 8 had vendors brought up differently for a way that Project Treble, I don't know if you could recall hearing about Project Treble,
Yep.
could sideload generic system images. It's a very, when you look at it, it's a very versatile use case. So when you look at it, you're like, this could change Android. You could flash the Android version of the latest spec on an older device just with like a sideload, you know? But obviously, generalizing the whole thing, putting Android in one image compatible for an architecture has its limitations. Obviously, if your device has a sensor and is not supported on the GSI image, then you need to bring it up naturally. So there's a lot of variables which we don't want them to come in the way for this utopia of using GSIs on a stable level. But yeah, it's very useful. I can use it sometimes on my Pixel devices, which are out of support, say a Pixel 4, which still has the tech spec to run later versions of Android, but not supported natively by Google because it's past the 3 years of support. But via GSI images, I can see how the system behaves on an older device, maybe sideloading it. Maybe it doesn't work fully, but I can get a feel for example, Android 14 developer preview.
So, what is generally missing from a GSI image that you would otherwise get?
On AOSP, the difference between the GSI and the AOSP built experience.
Camera is misbehaving, so
yeah,
to interrupt, but the focus is gone.
It's okay. So yeah, it's quite different. Obviously, depending on your device and your feature set, you might have more bugs or less bugs. But yeah, you can sideload different versions of Android, which is, I think, the most popular use case. Say you have one UI running on a Xiaomi device, can happen on a GSI. Sounds illegal, probably is illegal in some countries. I don't want to know what those countries are. But you have that liberty of messing around in a very weird way of your imagination, and even maybe on a different scale where there's a new OEM being brought up. Say you're a big company and you're opening your devices. I think could be Samsung is doing an approach. Yeah, my camera's going blurry right now. One moment. But as I was saying, I think it's good now. Yep. That's really good. If you have a feature set or devices, say you have a budget range device level, you could make one image that suits all. Now, this could be advantageous, you know, with a benefit in mind, where you just have one thing which works for all. But sometimes it comes with a drawback where, hey, it's kind of slow. You know, on some device it works, on other device it doesn't work. But yeah, it really depends on the margins of scope you have to use GSI images for, to really determine what you want to get from it.
Got it. Should we try and look at the questions we have on the Slido? Maybe there's something that we can tackle. Well, first one is, how are you, mate?
How are you, mate?
Yep.
I'm doing good.
First question answered.
That was easy.
Someone wanted to give you a good, easy start.
Thank you. I appreciate that, whoever you are.
Okay, so first question. Oh, folks, don't forget to upvote the questions so we know which ones to ask first. Did the build system change from Ninja? At some point, there was a discussion to switch to Bazel.
As far as I'm aware, most compilers and ROMs still use Ninja. So,
what is Ninja?
It's weird. You can. It's a way to interact with the user interface while compiling. It's not necessarily exactly a user interface, it's more of a compiler, but Ninja handles how Android is being compiled. It sees what's working and what's not working and prompts you what's not working. And at the end of the build environment, you have Ninja complete or whatever. So it's not an actual Ninja. Don't be fooled for a guy who's going to attack you after your build. It's just a status indicator compiler. It's a jack of all trades.
Okay, got it. Okay, I think we have covered this. Next question, again from Mike. How long does it take for you to get an AOSP build compiled? My worst try took 4 days.
My word, what machine do you have and what were you building? Is my question. But
Arduino.
Yes.
It was
An
running
Arduino.
on an Arduino. Yeah, but that's the only way. It was building on an Arduino. I mean, only the brave, my friend. Probably, were you building on a what?
Raspberry
like
Pi?
A Raspberry Pi?
A Pi 1, a Pi 4.
Yeah, Pi 1. I mean, the Raspberry Pi. The
At this rate, you might as well name the toaster, you know, it could also catch up with those speeds.
But does it run
yeah.
Crysis?
Well, for my particular use case, I have a server at my disposal, foreign from my country, which shares system resources, so it may vary on the build time, but ideally, I'm saying this on a very widespread use case, it takes an hour or two, not days.
Is
Please,
this
check
is
your
for a
system
full
out.
build, right?
Well, you can consider a full build in different ways. Obviously, you can make an OTA package and you can stop there. That's a necessity. You need to sideload a device, for example. Or you could just build a target, which builds all of the unnecessary code as well. But yeah, no, I mean, a full build still shouldn't take 4 days.
Hopefully so. I mean, it will take 4 days if you start it, turn off the computer, come back after the weekend and realize you turned off the computer and then you build again.
Including errors from human error. You know?
Yeah.
In that case, seek your Android doctor, please.
So I want to just play this card. So I found this thing thanks to Chris Baines the other day.
Okay.
It's like a free cloud tier from Oracle. Would it work to build Android, something like that?
I mean,
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that Oracle would be happy about that, but would it work?
realistically, if it's a Linux VM, it should work. If it's Linux at all, it should work. Ideally, it's Debian based. I mean, Ubuntu, I think, is the most popular way to build Android. But yeah, if there's like a cloud VM, it should work technically.
The only thing I can think of that it might be problematic is that it's only for CPUs, and it might not have enough RAM and or storage.
Yep. Nowadays, with Android 13 always going up an Android version, unfortunately puts that spec bump to a next level. So from Android 13 onwards, 16 gigabytes of RAM is the minimum. So yikes, you need to find a very good deal for a cloud server not to run out with credits quickly for 16 gigabytes to be very long term.
I mean, if you start thinking about that, probably one of those, cheap computers on Amazon, those boxes, like, with the random CPU and some RAM, it will be probably cheaper, like just a handful of euros, and you get something that does only one thing and just builds and melts for you.
Are they like
after 2 years?
throwaway computers? They just survive one build and then melt down?
No. It's like those punch cards at like a pizzeria that you get 10 pizzas and then you get one pizza for free. Every build you just click the card, you punch the card, and then you just throw it away. It's I mean, Greta is not happy, but at least you are not burning through your machine.
True.
But jokes aside, I guess you need something beefy. Maybe can you build it on like a Mac nowadays?
You used to.
You used to.
Unfortunately, with the latest introduction of compilers in Android, Darwin, I think, is no longer allowed. And
Yeah.
Darwin used to be the main way you could build Android on a Mac before.
So you need a PC with Ubuntu and you are golden. That's it.
Well,
Yep.
I mean, to be fair, you can easily build in a like a Linux virtual machine on a Mac or on Windows subsystem for Linux on Windows.
Yes. Obviously, given you have enough RAM to run
Yeah.
both the VM and your operating system stably.
Yeah. You need a computer with a bucket of RAM, but
Yep. Apart from that, you probably also want like a fast hard disk / SSD. SSDs are more ideal, and a beefy CPU. I mean, an M1 could do the job. I mean, in a VM, probably, I don't know how emulation is on ARM yet. There could be possibly ways, and I just don't use a Mac, so I don't know how that works. But yeah, hopefully in a realistic world, there is a way to build on a Mac quite efficiently with these newer processors.
yeah, you still need to be inside of a Linux VM though. On the other hand, I think the virtual machines file system with Linux, it's faster still, or at least it used to be faster than the Apple file system. So it might even be faster. That used to be the case for sure. When macOS was running on HFS Plus, I remember I was building AOSP in a virtual machine because it was faster than running it in the host operating system.
But it works.
System are a bitch. Nice. Let's get another question, Sebastiano, shall we?
Yes. Let me find the tab. Okay,
I
found the tab.
I have one.
Go for it.
So can you show us POG? POG? What's POG?
POG is, let's say, he's an entity in a group chat I have in Android. He's a yellow dinosaur plushie. And he's quite important, apparently, to the Android community. He's in my sister's room again. And I don't feel like getting up and walking to my sister's room. I'll send a daily POG pic on the Telegram.
Yeah. So okay. I'm negotiating here. Okay. So can we have POG in the thumbnail for YouTube?
Hell yes. I'll send you a picture.
Boom. Done.
Boom.
Done.
You're a good negotiator. I like
That's how I roll. So people, by the way, if you want to see how Sebastiano puts POG in the thumbnail,
I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing at this point. I'm like,
I don't know.
I'm just gonna put something there. It's fine. It's a yellow dinosaur. Sure, I'll find a way to put it in.
You can become a subscriber, and you can join the backstage where we see POG for the first time because I don't know what you're talking about, and then we throw it in a thumbnail on YouTube for tomorrow video. So so if you were wondering, are these people serious professionals? Think again. Think again. Anyway,
this is the opposite of clickbait as well. You're giving,
no.
You're giving people free teas, on YouTube.
Well,
I mean, our thumbnails generally have in-jokes about the episode that they refer to, but at the same time, they're clickbaity only because I put random arrows and giant text on them.
Please do. I also have a PNG of POG, so your work here is done. Boom.
I love you already. I don't have to cut it out.
I have him PNG with a gun. Don't ask why.
Okay.
That's funny.
Okay, sure.
Telegram stickers.
Yeah.
So I have another question. What's the first ROM you had built, and when did you build it, and for which device?
Okay.
That's 3 questions there.
All the details, specifically all of them. All right, no worries. I'll try to read.
Also, what were you wearing?
Yeah.
probably my pajamas. I can answer that right now.
No need to go too much into
question is
detail.
out. Okay, let's
Yeah.
3 to go.
That was the easiest one because I'm always indoors. Device? Wow, I think probably a Galaxy Tab 2. That was my
Galaxy
first
Tab 2.
device which I built. Well, built. You know, 12-year-old James messing around on a computer, hitting keys on a Linux distribution.
Clicky, clicky, clicky. And then waiting, because
And
that
waiting.
was the thing.
And dropping the internet of the whole house because I don't know what reposing is.
James, are you doing something? The internet is not working. I don't know. I mean, it's not me playing Call of Duty here. Not me.
12-year-old James would have been scarred playing Call of Duty at 12. But
I don't know. Maybe 12-year-old James would have shouted like all the other 12-year-olds that play Call of Duty.
I wasn't obnoxious, don't worry. Who knows? But yes, I was Tab 2 was my sister's tablet, not mine, because she didn't use it no more. Obviously, for the reason that, hey, TouchWiz is bad. Hey, it's running Android Ancient OS. So yes, I wanted to see what it was. I found a good device tree, so it was easier for 12-year-old James to just dump that device tree into a directory and get stuff compiling. It's already done. You don't need to do any changes, I hope. But yes, I think it was probably unsuccessful. If you tell me what's the first ROM you built, you didn't specify if you're unsuccessful or successful. So I'm gonna put that one. Although it's unsuccessful, I didn't flash it at all because it didn't work, and there was a better version from the original developer. So that's my history with my first custom ROM.
I thought you were gonna say that you used your sister's tablet because you didn't want to brick yours.
Also that. That's the origin story.
When I was a kid, I never think of the bad stuff, to be honest with you. I never was like, oh, what could possibly go wrong? I just kind of did it, and when it went wrong, I worried then. I scared my parents because I couldn't get out of a custom recovery back in the day. I sideloaded a custom recovery, and I'm like, oop, I bricked my device.
Oops.
Clearly I didn't, but yeah, you know, the scare comes when it comes, not before.
Yeah, I remember when I think it was my first Android device, so the HTC Dream, was it? Yeah, probably. I was flashing a custom ROM, and I was the other way around. I was like, I cannot fucking brick this because it's my only phone. I don't have another one. I need to make this work, but I so want this custom ROM 100%. So I was flashing it, and I don't remember what happened. Like, it finished flashing and it gave an error or something in the recovery, and then it wasn't booting anymore. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave it here for half an hour and come back. That worked.
It's gonna fix itself. It's gonna fix itself.
The funny part is, I have, I don't know if it's hoarding. Okay, fine, I'll admit it, it's hoarding. I have 9 devices on that desk over there, right? Pixels, Huawei's. I got rid of the Samsungs because they're bad. But I've only managed to brick 1 device out of all of that. With my custom ROM experience with 12-year-old James in responsibility of some devices, you know, custom ROMs and whatnot. They were alive. The only reason I killed a device was because it was a Pixel 2 and it had a low system image space, you know, so I had to repartition. So
okay.
So 17-year-old James accidentally just like nuked his partition table and had a Qualcomm brick.
Oopsies.
With no fire hose.
Ouch.
It's fine. The community got my back, and Pixel 2 is better than ever now, so thank you for that, Pixel 2 community.
Nice. So let's go with another question. I guess, so the next 2 questions that we have left are, when is thing X going to be done? So feel free to say I don't fucking know.
Okay, I have to specify though, like a ThinkX, what could it possibly be?
How is the progress of booting Android 12 on the Pixel 1?
Oh, boy.
That sounds
So-
like an interesting challenge.
It is an interesting challenge. The thing is, it doesn't sound interesting when you hear it, because the Pixel 2 is on Android 13. So by the same logic, one version less would be Android 12 when its lifespan is over. But there is such a thing called Linux versions on a kernel, especially, where many things depend on it. And with Android 12, with all Material U and whatnot, BBF, it's like a very specific kernel thing. It doesn't support it on 4.1 kernels or backwards, I believe. So 2.18, which was the Pixel 1's kernel version, never got it to boot yet. However, I'm just like, when I'm really bored, I just try again, and I try with more patches and patches and patches to the Android environment. Maybe I could like backport. You could either backport the whole kernel, which sounds like a big pain and a big task, and it wouldn't even be stable. But I'm trying to do the other way around, where you change the source code to revert the changes Google made. You're like, no, Google, I don't want to move forward. I just want something which works.
So just to clarify on that, when you build Android, you also have the Android Linux kernel version, and that generally is something that you don't rewrite yourself. Maybe you augment it, maybe you change some things, but you tend to use the base version of the kernel that comes with the device, right?
Yes. So when we're talking device source code, the OEM usually ships a kernel version, and you stick to that. I mean, there are talented people and talented Linux developers who had dedication and managed to upbring 5.0 kernels to devices 6 years old. But yeah, I'm not that far yet. I would love to have that quality and ability, and thank you if you're a developer who does that for me. But yeah, it's not me yet. I kind of stick to the kernel and improvise when needed.
So what are the things that stop you from, or stop anyone from saying, oh, I have this device and I want to run the newer version of the kernel on it? Is it just like drivers don't work, APIs have changed, stuff like that?
When it comes to kernel, it's really hard to tell, because drivers play an important role, but the kernel is just so big. I could actually show you. I do have a kernel tab for my Pixel 2.
You need to share your screen again, though.
Yep.
Okay.
As you can see, there's a bunch of stuff which goes into kernels. You can see principally C is the most used language in the kernel repository. But if you want to backport a whole version, you probably need to find a newer version and adapt it to your device, rather than complicating the hell out of an old kernel and bringing newer stuff. So think of it as a newer kernel backported with older device changes. As you can see, there's not much I contribute by myself, because Linux kernel versions and commits are very general. Although we are speaking about Android, they could also be compatible for different things, and it gets quite a bit messy. So there's backports, there's from lists, so BBF changes. As I spoke with Marlin, which is Pixel 1. This is Pixel 2, it's Wahoo, it's a commentary. Yeah, don't laugh at the name, Wahoo. It's it's something Google made up, not me. But yeah, BBF concerns everyone, so yep. Let me stop sharing. Okey-dokes.
Cool. Another when is ThinkX happening question. When is the official December drop feature? Sorry, I'm reconstructing the sentence here in real time. When are the December feature drop features going to be available on PE 13?
So PE stands for Pixel Experience.
Thank you.
The question, welcome. The question concerns me because I am a device maintainer of a custom ROM on an official basis for Pixel 2, Pixel 3a, Pixel 4, 4 XL, you know, all the XL versions as well. So when there's a Pixel Experience update, so let me summarize what Pixel Experience is. It's a custom ROM, in this case on Android 13, which gets all the feature drops and Google's goodies for Google Pixel devices and ports them to whatever device, you know. There's a Xiaomi device list, there's a Google device list. I know it's ironic. I was the first person to be like, okay, the Pixel 1's out of support. Let's build Pixel Experience for the Pixel. Sounds ridiculous, but it serves its purpose, you know. There's a device out of support, and now it feels natural that it comes. But obviously, when porting device feature drops, and especially with the December update, which is a quarterly release by Google, where they changed a bunch of the code in Android 13, it usually takes a long time for me as a core member of Pixel Experience and the rest of the team to port those features over, add some hacky fingerprints so they can support the latest Google Assistant, support the latest Google Photos backup, for example. So yeah, it takes time. ETA, I don't know. It will come and I'll build it. So you're safe.
How does it work when you hit some feature, for instance, that relies on like the fancy CPU that we have? How is it called? The tensor, whatever thingy.
Tensor, yeah.
How do you do it when, you know, what do you do when on a Pixel 2 that doesn't have it? So how do you manage that?
So it's very interesting. Some features which are claimed by Google and whatnot about like Magic Eraser. Hey, you can do Magic Eraser only on Tensor because there's an artificial intelligence thing which we use. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's literally a Google server side where they say, hey, is your device a Pixel 6? Okay, it's a Pixel 6, so we'll give you this feature. In that case, we get the fingerprint, so the device fingerprint, which identifies its code, you know, there's like a code name and it says it's that code name with a bunch of information which validates it, and you push it to another device. You trick Google's system, telling it, hey, I'm not using a Pixel 2, I'm using a Pixel 6. And it's really funny because sometimes I'm on my Google Drive for backups, and I make backups of my operating system since I format it so frequently. And it tells me backup from your Pixel 6. And I'm like, I never own a Pixel 6. So yeah, in that case, for example, I'm not sure if you're aware, the Pixel 1 still has unlimited Google Photos backup to this day. And I think till it dies, till every device on the planet dies, it'll be supported. So we have in Pixel Experience in the frameworks/base repository, which is the main brains of the Android operating system, we have a database of device fingerprints. So we say, okay, fingerprint for Pixel 1. So for Google Photos, it can be unlimited on any device. Pixel 7 for the latest features. Pixel 5 for the specific backup thing or feature. So we take what's best out of both worlds of Google and like a large device feature set, and we just combine them together to make a very optimized and Google feeling experience for Pixel Experience, for example. It's not just this ROM, there's probably others which use the same trickery in their operating system, but I speak for what I see on Pixel Experience.
Ivan, do you have any other questions?
I'm checking. Oh wow, this is nice because actually I was thinking about this when you say the most popular language is C. Somebody it's asking what's up with Rust adoption in Android, and I want to put something else on the table because Sebastiano, you posted something on Telegram today, right? About some course or like something that Android team just released, a Rust course, And now I want to understand how they intersect with Android. Because I know Rust, from, let's build system tools and things. C, it's like too boomer, so I want to use something else. So Rust. Okay, so that's fair. But how Android comes into the picture?
I mean, obviously, Rust could be used for many different things. Specifically for my use case, I've never really interacted fully with it, but I can see most components in Android relying on maybe Rust in a general sense. So like there's a repository in all of Android, which many still use. I think it's more commonly used for app development, Rust, or maybe interfacing apps with hulls, which are really important in the AOSP point of view. But yeah, there could be an adoption there. I don't know. I'm not following quite what's going on around all of AOSP. That would be kind of impossible. But yeah, this is my broad guess here on the adoption of Rust.
Yeah, I remember about a year and a half ago that there was an announcement that I was just looking up now from the Google security team saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna start using Rust because that eliminates a huge class of potential bugs and then security issues like that are memory management related." And that was very interesting. And then earlier this month, I think at the beginning of the month, they released another blog post saying that it's now 20% of the Android code is actually Rust after a year and a half, which is impressive. It's impressive.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it could be used for security features for sure. I can see it actually making sense. But device-wise, not yet. But yeah, probably Android needs to adapt it before. There needs to be a need for devices to start speaking Rust like Android.
Yeah, okay, I found the other blog post as well. It was from the 1st of December. I'm gonna put the link in the chat.
Yeah, I'm grabbing everything, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you will find the link in the description. So don't stress over it, copy pasting from a video. It won't work. Ivan is putting it in the description.
I mean, it could work if you're using OCR, or maybe you're watching. On the phone, you can if you're watching on YouTube on the phone, you can just pull up and then do the text recognition thingy. That mostly works. Yeah, that mostly works.
I don't want to bring TensorFlow in the game just because reasons. Right, I'm putting it in the description. Just stop.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Party pooper, fun police. Yeah, come on. I'm waiting for it. But
no, nothing to add to that.
Anyway, jokes aside. So, what else, Sebastiano? Anybody has questions that we want to answer? Any curiosity? Any plan? What's
just a question came in right now.
Go.
From Fabio: to create and maintain a custom ROM, how much knowledge do you need to have in the C language and other languages that are used in AOSP?
So, if an academic was here, let's say a teacher was here, and he was watching me say this, a very good programming teacher, and he hears me say that a 12-year-old James who has no expertise in any programming, telling you don't need any knowledge of programming to get started, or C especially. I just started C this semester as a first year fresher in university. Found it okay, but yeah, the fact that I'm already at this level of Android and I just now I'm consulting C says something. I mean, you realistically could achieve anything if you put your head to it, your dedication, you're just passionate and having fun. Then go for it,
Yeah.
Do like me, do like 12-year-old James. Look back at him and don't laugh at him, and just maybe do something like him.
I like what 12 years James will do, right? The attitude. It's like what James will do. No, I like it. I like it because curiosity took me quite far. So I like the mindset, and also the fact that you don't need to know everything to start. You just
Yes.
need to start, and then you figure it out, and then you hit a wall, and then you search on the internet, and then you hit
Exactly.
another wall, and then you search it, and then you go for a walk, because otherwise you burn down the house, and then you go back to the thing, and then just walk the dog, and then you search a bit more. And in the meantime, Gradle is building, or Ninja is building, or whatever the fuck it is, but you're still waiting, so you have time.
Yes, of course. I mean, I wouldn't have 12-year-old James would have seen an error and stopped, and I don't know, went to play Call of Duty, according to Sebastiano.
I didn't say you did.
I would, I said.
Fortnite,
Or-
come on, Sebastiano. Fortnite. Kids nowadays, they play Fortnite.
Fortnite wasn't there back when I was 12, but
Fair enough.
would play Minecraft, I guess. But
Minecraft. Oh man.
I would walk the family if I was doing a repo sync, I would get the whole house out of there so they can not complain about the internet. But yes, of course. I mean, beep, 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 boop. It fails, it stops, the internet's there. I mean, there's sort of an excuse now because there's a community, as I told you, Telegram group chats. People will help you. You will see information you can use. There's very talented and friendly developers with the same device you have or the same problem you're facing. So yes, just do it if you really want to. If you don't really want to, then just don't do it. And just listen.
It feels like you as the way you're describing it, looks like you are not alone. You won't be alone even if you hit a blocker or something. And then there is the fact that as a young kid, like a young adult or whatever, let's say a kid, there is a huge part that is like, how is inconsciente, Sebastian, in English?
I don't know.
Like,
Let me look it up.
Kinda brave by design because you don't know better. You can't actually see dangers because you're just a kid, right? I mean, I see with my baby, he doesn't care about anything. He just throws puts the end in. We have a Labrador, so you see the dog, okay? The thing is 30 kilos, the baby is 10 kilos, and he just opened and just put the head like a lion kind of thing. He doesn't know, right? Or he just try to jump from the stairs. So there is that part that I like because fearless. Fair enough.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Maybe reckless.
Yeah, reckless. More like probably reckless. Bravo. Yeah. The idea that you don't care. Just YOLO. I mean, you are really YOLO because you don't care. You don't know better. And I think that if you can save that and keep that with you as a mindset as you grow, you now are great at problem solving, like a professional, because you're now a professional. So now you have better terms, and now you are not reckless anymore. You are very intuitive or better, good at problem solving. You just saw a lot of shit. You didn't care, and then now you have experience, right? That's the idea that I like. And how was it? Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. It was something like that. At some point, somebody told me something like that, right? Oh, you didn't get what you wanted, but now you have experience in radar.
I mean, it stood by me for a while. I told Sebastiano that when I was young, I didn't fear breaking my device. I just did it, and then I worried about it when it happened. But I mean, it's common within your daily routine because, I mean, who the hell told me to get into public speaking about Android? I didn't even know it existed. I live in Malta. I don't have outsource events. There's not big stuff happening here. But
GDG Malta, there's no GDG Malta.
There is a GDG Malta, but 20 people show up.
Oh, come on.
It's a start. It's a start.
When I created
GDG... When I created GDG Geneva in Switzerland, when I was living there, it was 4 people, and one was Sasha.
How many cows? How many cows?
No, it was like because the Geneva is like a posh city, so they don't care. And it was but again, you just do it. So I love it.
Yeah, there's no need. I mean, I put myself in something I really didn't have to. You're conquering a dream, especially for me, since I'm out, an outsider from the country where I gave a huge talk in. I'm just like, okay, that's something I don't have here. Let me conquer that dream with no consequence in mind. And then I just did it. I started doing a slide presentation. Like, I never did a talk in my life. So GDG Malta came into that step, made me do my first talk, let me, get out of my comfort zone and give a talk and see where I go wrong and where I go better, so I can prepare myself for the next big thing. Because obviously, practice still does make perfect.
I love the fact that the community is always there, right? If
Yeah.
it's for the slides or Telegram. I need this is good. This is good for the soul. Knowing that the Android community is there, I love it.
As I was saying before we went live, we are very lucky to have the Android community that is like the Android community is, because it's not something you get often in life, but even other development communities aren't necessarily like the Android community.
Yep. Although it's so open, like you don't do the same thing as I do. You don't do firmware development as your main thing. We still have that same thing which keeps us a close community, accepting each other, wanting to learn more from each other. The fact was that I went to DroidCon Berlin as probably one of the only people who did a firmware related talk,
But I remember, were you the youngest? I mean, for sure.
I don't know.
Does it matter?
17.
Does it really matter?
Does it matter? I'm still a member, so.
Well, I mean, I have a son now. If I have a baseline, I need to push the kid, right? I mean, he has to.
But it's not a competition.
Let the kid decide for himself, even.
Yes.
Oh man, he's gonna be a painter or a YouTuber.
I mean, he can take the YouTuber skills from you.
Fair enough.
That
was unexpected. Yeah, but the thing about the community that I was thinking today, because I checked the moa.party again, Sebastiano, and I just realized when the Twitter shitstorm started, half a day later, there was the Android Dev community Mastodon server. Fuck it. I mean, the thing was just instant, right? You just, there is a problem. Boom, problem solved. We need the money. Boom, here is the money. Everybody's chipping in, and fuck it. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yes, especially that as I was saying, my talk. You have app developers. Why the hell would they need to, on an ideal, even on a job basis, they're app developers. They come to a talk about firmware and show so much interest. That's really what sparked me most, that people showed up, they cared, they asked me questions afterwards, and they wanted to follow on. I want to do the same in the future. I'm not saying I'm a firmware developer, I know everything. No, not at all. I barely know a thing in app development, but I really do want to learn. I went to talks at DroidCon, listened to different talks I never heard about, heard the Google keynote, and I had a blast. I interacted with people like it was natural. They're a part of my family, one big family, from different countries, Europe, South America, Asia, you name it. It doesn't seem far when you're speaking to the Android community, because it's really close.
It is. It's really cool. And I had back in the day when I did my first talk, it was a very similar feeling of, wow, it's actually, people make you feel like you belong, even though you have the biggest imposter syndrome ever. You're like, yes. Why the fuck am I even here to begin with?
And I went, because obviously I don't get this opportunity too often. I went as a attendee at DroidCon Berlin for the first time ever as a speaker. So, my expectations had to be higher. I felt like I needed to push myself a bit more. But still, the fact was that I've met so much people that I didn't know existed in one place at that one specific time. Because obviously that's a counter drawback to living in a small country like Malta. You know, you have the issue where, hey, I want to open up about Android development, and there's not much to do so. You know, but yeah, you really slowly discover, and you influence people as well if you really want to. If somebody shows that they want to expand their development career or learn something new as a hobby, like I did, Android is there. It's open with a big hug there. Just like, hey, apps here, like machine learning, firmware development. It's just something which strikes you for sure on a different level.
Okay, I have one last question, and then I think we should wrap up the stream. My question is, I haven't been in the custom ROM scene for ages. What are the coolest things and the most most widely used kernels, and what do they offer over stock? Also known as sell me on trying to flash custom ROM to my phone.
Okay, so first of all, I'll be your salesman over here. This is a Google Pixel 4. This is a 3A. This thing stopped on Android 13. This thing stopped on Android 12. What are they both running? The same version of Android, Android 13. Could it be a Xiaomi? Could it be a Samsung? Do you hate the user interface? Switch to a different user interface. Remove the bloat. It's there. It's at your disposal. Want to customize it yourself? Want to build your own user interface? AOSP is there to customize, to add your own elements, to add your own image in the about page. I don't know, add an angry pizza in the corner. It's up to you. It's your imagination going wild on UI elements, user interface, overclocking. Does your device feel slow? Overclock it. Are you wasting too much battery like Ivan because he overclocked his Vodafone? Then underclock it. You're gonna save some battery. There's a way to do it. You want Google Camera to be supported. Although you're not using a Pixel or the same sensor, doesn't matter. There's an APK for that. You can ship it directly into system. Give it all the privileges. PrivApp, you know, it exists. Just do it. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can make Android do a funny noise when you put down the notification center. Make like a Vine boom or whatever. If you really want that, do it. You want to ship Google Play Store out of your custom ROM. Do it as well. You don't want Google spying on you. De-Googlefy your phone, even though you have a Pixel. It's honestly just a wide spectrum you never knew existed. You're stuck to one thing, and you're happy with it, or you're not happy with it. And yeah, you just overlook that hurdle, and you're like, yes, what I want, that one feature, that one thing which bugs me. I've seen it before. A bug on stock ROM being fixed on a custom ROM. Completely normal. So, you know, the threshold to skipping from stock to custom ROM honestly isn't that big anymore. So, yes, there's a lot of talented people. There's something that you don't have in your community, make it yourself. It's just honestly fun to do so, and you'll learn and integrate with so many people who maybe have the same issue and you've solved it for them. That's principally why I started. So, yeah, that's summarizing and hopefully selling AOSP to you, Sebastiano.
I don't know, man. I like my life easy and my phone working.
No, but I'm thinking about the junk that I have in my drawer. You know, old phones, old Motorola, old Samsung. And
I should definitely flash the 3A though, because I can still use it as a dev device.
I mean, Francesca, for instance, I have a S9 that is stuck to Android 10. Francesca has a S9 Plus that it's dying, so it's gonna become one of my device for work. That is stuck to 10. You know, I just give it a bit of a spin. Why not?
Yes,
What's happening on the
I suspect that the notifications for new followers they got stuck at some point, and now they're like going through the queue,
rolling through.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nice.
I have no idea.
I mean, computer science is hard.
No idea. It's not our code, so we didn't break it. maybe.
It just maybe.
Maybe
yes.
maybe we did. I don't know.
Okay, who knows? Anyway, let's wrap up. James, it was a pleasure, and I hope we can make another episode with you if you have some fancy, cool stuff in 2023. Because I didn't have time to ask what are you planning for next year. So whenever you have something that you want to show, just let us know.
For sure.
And if you have a cool ROM for Samsung S9, let me know.
Do you want the Pixel experience on the
I want
S9
Pixel
Plus?
experience on my phone, and that's actually a good selling point. So thank you everybody in the chat. We gave away the pin and the
keychain is gone.
the keychain. Yeah, I'm gonna give you one that is not on the ground. Maybe. Anyway, I'm gonna reach out to you for the addresses. Thank you again. And if you have Amazon Prime, please consider supporting us. It's free. Uncle Bezos is speaking the bill, so he doesn't need that amount of money. So just support us so we can do this kind of giveaway. That's it.
James, thank you very much for being with us. It's been a great episode. And so for folks that are in the Discord, as usual, you're going to find the link to our meet in a second. And let's go put yellow dinosaurs on thumbnails or something.
I'll send it to you. I won't forget.
Awesome. Perfect. By the way, this is the last stream of the year. We will be on a break for the next few weeks because we have other stuff to do, like not being on camera on Wednesday evening for a few weeks. Probably get some rest. Probably not get much.
Probably what? Sebastian, in what universe? In what universe? I have a 15-month baby and I'm relocating. What the fuck are you talking about?
I was kind of messing with you, Ivan. Sorry.
Jesus Christ. I mean, if I can make like 6 hours of sleep, I'm like a hero. I feel like I'm conquering the world. Jesus Christ. I'm too old for this. Anyway.
So, folks, we'll see you on the 11th of January. We already have a great lineup for January and February, so don't miss it. And see you soon and enjoy. Have a great time. Spend it with the people you love. And get some rest if you can, because we probably won't.
Same here.
That's for me. Ciao,
Thanks,
ciao.
guys.
Bye.
See you.